Hello. We're back. With another one. So before we get into it, I want to start by saying that everything is allegedly. Don't sue me. Everything I'm going to be talking about is alleged. I'm going to start with like my usual trigger warnings that we will be talking about CSA, PDF files, things like that. Nothing in depth, but you know, if you think that this topic might harm you, please don't make yourself watch this video. I will leave some resources in the description if you feel like you've been affected by anything mentioned. I'm sure probably a lot of you are like me and love The Sims. And with that comes CC and mods, and I'm sure everyone knows about the website Mod The Sims, which it was founded in 2004, which kind of works the same as like The Sims Resources and any other mod sharing website. It was formerly known as Mod The Sims 2, but with the release of The Sims 3, it was changed to just Mod The Sims. And the founder of Mod The Sims is an individual known as Delphi. I did see some Reddit comments like from a few years ago saying that apparently Mod The Sims made a Tumblr post saying that Delphi was no longer the owner of the website. However, I don't know if that changed or something, but Delphi has changed their name. I'm gonna try not to butcher this, but I think Tashikith. But I'm just gonna refer to them as Delphi because I think they changed their name because of all of this stuff. So as far as I'm aware, Delphi still owns the website, but people say they don't. But when you click on their Mod The Sims profile, it says site owner. So do with that what you will. So you're probably like, okay, but what's going on? What did Delphi do? To get into that, we need to go way back to the beginning of Mod The Sims. And so there was a little website called Sim Secret, which was basically a little gossip, kind of like Kiwi Farms, but for Sims, for people to gossip. A couple of posts were made there being like, hold up, there is some really weird mods in CC that's been hosted on Mod The Sims. Why is this allowed? The first one people made note of was, I don't know if people remember, but like way back there was like a campaign to get people to drink more milk. I think it was like the Got Milk campaign or something, where celebrities would be shown with like milk mustaches to be like, got milk? A certain individual, not Delphi, another creator had made a CC overlay for teenagers with a milk mustache, which, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world, but then people went further in their account and it was just all provocative clothing for teenage girl sims and also a teenage girl walking animation overhaul mod. And not only was this person making this CC and mods, but they were also drooling over the female sims wearing it. Teenager sims. Teenagers in The Sims 3 aren't like teenagers in The Sims 4 where they pretty much look the same as young adults. No, they looked like teenagers, that their bodies were different from young adult Sims. People were posting these complaints on Mod The Sims and Delphi was apparently just scrubbing them clean and not addressing it at all. And so people started protesting and they were like, we're not gonna use your website anymore because what are you doing? And one person made a post stating, I shouldn't be surprised considering your past, but holy shit, Delphi, stop fucking protecting and defending a creepy pedo who is clearly making people uncomfortable. And what is that past? Well, on the 25th of June 2001, a news article was released stating child man fined £2,500. That man is Stuart Stanfield, which is what Delphi's real name is. Stuart Stanfield had pled guilty on the counts of 30 charges of viewing CSAM. And from a This Is Hampshire archive, Stuart had admitted to police that he had looked at the pictures 3 times and knew what he had been doing was illegal, but he left the images and later found by his wife on his computer being too lazy to delete them. Delphi, Stuart, claimed that he hadn't been seeking out CSAM, but they were just included in a zip of a lot of other pornographic images, but he didn't do anything to weed out the CSAM in them. And I don't know about you, but hypothetically, which I wouldn't anyway, and I'm sure probably most of you wouldn't either, hypothetically, you look out pornographic images because, you know, back in the 2000s, it's not like you just load up Pornhub. This was a different age back then, and you clearly know that you've downloaded something that isn't legal. would you not want to report whatever you got them from to the police? Would you not want to do something and be like, whoa, 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 that's a minor? No? You viewed them 3 times? But he did admit that he is attracted to older teenage girls. But he's not a pedo. He's not. He just downloaded them and viewed them 3 times. He wasn't jailed for this. He was just fined and put in a sex registry for 5 years. Shortly after this, he moved to Ireland, which I saw some misconceptions saying that they don't have a sex offender registry there at the time, but that wasn't true. I believe it was like a year before he was put on the register that Ireland had one too. So I think he just moved there to get away from like the heat of his hometown and things like that. But part of his probation included that he couldn't travel to the US, which is why he didn't go to the EA convention he was invited to. It also included not being able to be in contact with minors during that 5-year period. However, this was in 2001, and in 2004 he created Mod The Sims, which wasn't an inherent breach of his probation, which would have meant that he wouldn't have inherently been in contact with minors, but minors were accessing the website and could post comments, and he was moderating that. So allegedly, I couldn't find much proof of this other than word of mouth. However, people close to Delphi have stated that the story he gave them didn't quite match up to the one given in court, stating that he didn't know they were underage. He didn't know that what he was looking at was illegal. Did intend to delete them, but he just didn't get round to it before his wife discovered them. And again, this other part is just alleged. I did see people talk about it on a web forum, but the link that they shared to like where the discussion came from was no longer working, as this was back in like the early 2000s. So allegedly he had been in contact with an at the line 18-year-old girl, which, you know, it's not illegal, but when you're a grown man with a wife, it's a bit weird. And he apparently has an affair with this 18-year-old girl and would purchase her a webcam. And also allegedly, I couldn't find much proof of this other than word of mouth again, but there have been some 14 and 15-year-old girls who stated that while Delphi didn't solicit intercourse from them, he did talk to them in a very weird way. And one of the girls says that over a course of months she spoke with him in private on MSN. He would frequently solicit personal information from her, asking her things such as how far she'd gone with a boy, what colour underwear she was wearing, and what her bra measurements were. And when that girl was informed of his history as a sex offender, she attempted to approach the subject with him in conversation, but it resulted in him not only claiming the information was untrue, but having to go at her before blocking her. Allegedly. But this whole webcam thing has been mentioned by a couple different websites, so apparently it was word of mouth at one point. There was a pretty common fact, so, but I can't say that, so it might be fact, it might not be fact, I don't know, but a few people did mention it, so I'm just gonna put that out there. Don't come for me. But not only is Delphi a convicted pedo and potentially talking to underage girls, but he is also just a dickhead when it comes to money. So back in the day, there was a website called Universal Sims. They were running a donation drive to try and help cover the cost of a cyber attack that they had. This attack had caused their traffic to spike. However, because they were just a small website, they couldn't cover the costs of that amount of traffic, and so it went over their allowed bandwidth. But this wasn't noticed by anyone running the website. There was no lag, no nothing to say that this happened. However, their host website handed them a $2,500 fine for this alleged attack. And who ran the host? Delphi. And they tried to get in contact with them and say like, hey, what's going on? Can we have any proof that this happened? And they were handed no real proof other than a JPEG image of their bill, but were shown no proof of this alleged attack that took place. And so people were really suspicious about this and done some digging, and there's a way that you can see how much traffic a website had, and people looked at the traffic and there was no spike at all to Universal Sims website. There was none. The traffic was normal. And so people suspected that Delphi was trying to compensate for a loss on Mod The Sims profits and pin that on Universal Sims instead. But going back to previous allegations, which might not be true, I did try and find proof for like the purchases he was getting for these older, younger teenagers, and I think there was proof at some point, but because these websites are so old, it's no longer there. So I'll show you what I'm saying. So Allegedly. And sure, all of this was many years ago, like 20 years ago, so why does it matter? I know I'm gonna get at least one comment like that. As I said previously about the creator who was posting questionable teenage CC and Delphi was doing nothing about it, that was in 2013, which was more than 10 years after he was convicted. So clearly he's not really changed, and I don't see him changing. And that mod creator was pretending to be a teenage girl from California, which was a lie. He was not a teenage girl from California. He was a fully grown man living in Australia. So if that's who he's defending and keeping on his website, then do with that what you will. This creator was eventually banned from Mod The Sims after many complaints and many times of Delphi scrubbing all those complaints off his website. He banned him, yippee. And like I said, a few people don't know that he's still the site owner, but I don't want to say that 100% because I could be wrong about that, but from what I can see, he is still the site owner, so clearly there's some sort of potential risk there if you're a teen girl. But yeah, I just think I had no idea about this until someone left a comment about it under my last Sims video, so thank you for letting me know about this, because I think probably most people don't know about this unless you were in the very early Sims fandom, and even then still it's not really talked about. I only saw comments about it on Reddit from like 6 years ago. The website is still active, and I know a lot of people do use the website and give donations to the website, as well as Delphi's own page, and I'm sure he has a Twitch as well. So I just want you to be aware of who you're potentially giving money to, even not directly through things like advertisements. Just don't want to access a website that was created by a convicted pedophile who admitted his attraction to teenagers to the place, but then tried to backtrack it. Just saying, I know who I don't want to give my money to. But yeah, just a short little one today. Let me know if you have any more information. I did see some other word of mouth conversations happening about him, but I don't want to mention anything else because it is all alleged, so I don't want to put him on blast for things he hasn't done when there are things he has done that he deserves to be put on blast for. But if you have any other information or thoughts, please let me know. Or anything else you'd like me to look a bit more into. It was a bit hard for this one because it was so long ago. A lot of the websites are down, a lot of the images aren't there anymore, so I had to do a bit more digging for this one. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Mwah.